Thank you for coming. So this is an Evergreen arrangements class, just talking about all the cool things you can do with stuff that you might be able to find in your backyard or out and about. It's always good to ask for permission. I might be someone who asks for forgiveness, but all of this was donated by Ginger Valley, so we definitely have permission to use this gorgeous stuff. And Robin here is a garden leader at the Coquillard Unity Garden, as well as the creative lead designer at Ginger Valley. So she's going to tell us some amazing stuff and get the artistic juices flowing in a bit. So these are all the cool things that greens can make. We have things like greens, pots of greens, or we call them pogs, little center pieces, and some smaller pieces. It's really just, what do you have that you want to stuff full of cool green branches? And so the things that we use at Ginger Valley to kind of get things going is like floral tape. We have these floral picks and sticks. We have floral paddle wire, and then pruners and all kinds of stuff. But realistically, oh, and a hot glue gun is Robin's do or die.
I am burnt. You should see my hands also.
Absolutely.
Hot glue everywhere.
Hot glue is definitely very helpful, but realistically, you don't need all of that. You can definitely find things at home that'll get you started or get you close enough to where you want to be, like regular tape, sticks you can find outside, zip ties or string, some scissors. That'll serve you just as well. And so it starts out with the greens. So you could start out with like a branch like this one. What's the key is you don't want to cut it so that you just take this nice tip off. You want to go up the branch and start taking off these little bits, because those ones you can use just as well, instead of just taking this and then throwing the whole thing away. Because then when you cut them off the sides, you'll end up with bits like this that you can stuff and kind of layer in the front when you put it in a pot of green. One key thing to note is if you are going to be stuffing a pot, you're going to want to cut your greens at an angle. It helps with being able to stuff it into the dirt. If it's a flat space, it's going to resist more, but it also gives a little bit more surface area for the water to kind of make its way into the greens and helps keep it from drying out. Another way to keep your greens from drying out is to coat them in some wilt stop or pine resin. That'll help coat the needles so that moisture doesn't evaporate out of the leaves as much, and that'll help them last longer. So the stuff we make today should definitely last you through Christmas. If it's outside, it'll last you probably till March.
It goes to March, so the soil freezes because you want to wet that soil down, and when the soil freezes, then everything inside retains that moisture, so you don't have to water at all.
And even with like the swags that aren't in soil, how hard do you think those will hit?
That's iffy too. It depends on if you're in a very windy area. Sometimes the wind can, dry it out. But if they are wilt proof, that's going to help, because that's what you put on evergreens like boxwoods to help from wilt, blight, wind burn, stuff like that.
All right. If you do keep your swag inside, you are going to want to keep it away from like a heater or the fireplace. That's just going to add some temperature to dry it out. Da-da-da-da. Join us. Hello. Oh,
They just start. Yeah.
My mother-in-law has that same water bottle.
Oh,
yes, she does.
I was thinking about her crazy hair. I love it. I love that soap.
So the inside ones, you're going to want to keep them away from direct heat, and then you're going to want to mist them with water to try and give that moisture back to the thing. It will not last as long as if it was outside, but it'll still last you a good while. So again, here's all those things that greens can make before I talk about how to actually do those. So when you're stuffing your pots, when you're doing one that's kind of like this or like this, you want to have something that's front facing. You don't really care about how the back looks as much. You want it to look out into the world. You're going to want to set your height at about 2.5 times the pot you have. So you're going to set your height with a nice green at that height there. And then after that, you're going to want to layer your greens towards the front. and then a little fill in the back and fill in any little holes you find. You don't want to see your dirt because it just makes it look full and beautiful and nice. A really good thing that helps fill holes are accent greens. Those are going to be all these pretty things like pine and sapphire add really cool texture, but they'll also add cool things like color. So we'll have like Douglas fir and different cedars, and then more cedars can add more flowy pieces. Like Robin is always so good at creating flow at coming out at you and stuff like that. So I'm going to actually hand it off to her to tell you a little bit of the art behind the stuffing greens and pods.
The art.
The art.
So I'm Robin. Just and that's Selina.
Oh, yeah.
So, like Selina said, there's different things you can do with different greens. Creativity is something I cannot teach you. Creativity is something that we all have inside. It's just a matter of trying to get it to come out. So you have to be that curious, wondrous. Is this going to work for me? Can I do it? But the worst thing that you could do is say, I can't do it. I'm not like you. It'll never look like that. That's just setting yourself up for failure. So I need you to be positive. And remember when you picked up that first piece of crayons and the papers and the coloring books and you just went crazy and you had so much fun and you're out running around in the woods and you made forts and things like that. Anybody else do that? Yeah. So creativity is about tapping into that inner child inside. I'm one of the biggest children you will ever meet. I'm 56 and I will never grow up, probably still play with fairy gardens, but it's my passion. So I cannot teach you creativity. I can inspire you to tap into your own creativity. Have you guys ever made anything like this before? Yes. 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 Everyone has? No. Just a little bit. It's about how it makes you feel. I mean, when you're connecting to nature, because we're from nature, right? So when you're connecting to nature, you want to heighten your senses. I want you to smell, feel the textures, smell. I mean, if you can't feel the difference of these. Smell and feel. Smell and feel.
I'll take some too.
We won't tap into the actual tasting part of the senses.
Some of them though are.
What do you think, Jonathan?
It's also worth mentioning that your things shouldn't look like anyone else's. It's supposed to be about you, what you like.
Yeah, it's out there.
Do you have an incense here?
Yeah, she does.
So this is called incense cedar. So this is one of the things I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
See how it's droopy? So when you go to put it up and you're trying to do an upright in a pot, it's just kind of not, it's not natural, right? It's not a natural flow. So when you talk about something natural flow, think of how plants grow in the way. Sticks grow straight up, right? And these guys want to kind of go like this. So when I enhance pots, everything's in an upright position with all of your strong, sturdy greens. Like this kind of makes it come to life when I go something like this. Right? See how it just kind of adds depth. It's about depth and shape and form and believability, realism. Like I put a little piece of leaf in the owl's mouth. It's just something that I do to just make it kind of come to life and to make it personal to you. When I create, I kind of create little mini worlds where I just want to get lost in because that's what I do all day long. And if I don't have creativity, I lose my passion, and that's what I'm all about. And if I lose that, I can't inspire you guys to find it yourself. So I encourage you to always tap into your senses, always believe in yourself. I've always believed in Selina, and she's done amazing in the last couple of years. And I've got to watch her grow as well.
She does that a lot. If you want to be friends with someone that hypes you up constantly, be friends with her.
I am a big cheerleader for everybody because I know everybody has it. They just don't know how to tap into it. And it's just getting to that, like the mind of a child. Go back to your childhood. Remember what it was like to be playful. It's about curiosity and wonder. And you can do it.
Here's a little world Robin created for this little penguin boy.
My little thing. Someone said it looked like a hawk the other day. It's like
He kind of, to me, he
whatever
looks like
you want to do.
parrot. Like without color.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's some of the stuff that I did
Little
this year.
boy.
The gnomes are huge. It's a big, oh, do you see the cardinals? So layers are important too, ladies. So see how you just kind of layer upon layer upon layer? And that's why this looks so kind of generic and plain right now. But I promise you, when you start just playing with different layers, I'm just gonna throw all this on here. See what happens? It's color, it's texture, it makes it real, right? It makes it look believable and it's pretty and it's fun. Sometimes some of the greens look different too, like this is a darker green. If you flip it over, it becomes a lighter green. So you can play with both sides of the greens.
And that goes same with like, I don't like that one.
It's just that one.
Same with like ones like this, that you think is just like a regular fur, it still has that fun
different-
change in texture too.
And in color, so don't be afraid to flip flop stuff.
Do you use blue spruce ever?
Yes, and silver fir. Silver fir is one of my favorites to use. And Douglas fir, because you can flip it around.
Look at that little boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, that one, that was one of my favorites that I did this year.
Those are
with the
lotus, are those lotus
This is
pods?
a lotus pod, so this is a true lotus pod.
So are they like a water?
Yes, it's a water lily.
Pot after-
Yes. So a lot of things that are, you want to use natural things, that's probably the best thing I could tell you guys. You don't have to go out to Hobby Lobby and spend a ton of money on anything.
These
This
are
is
all
grass.
outside.
This is from grasses.
I took a bunch to my mom.
Yes.
For hers.
Yes.
We did that
Just-
last year.
Red twig dogwood.
You could even take twigs you find and then paint them different
Mhm.
colors if you want to add color.
We do, obviously, we do not grow magnolia leaves here, but
Little hydrangea. Of course, Christmas classic is adding pine cones to
cones.
things.
Yeah, my favorite.
so there are certain rules in the art world that I very rarely pay attention. But they're always saying to use in odd numbers. That I do agree with. So it's either 1, 3, 5, 7, whichever, but I use a lot of, see how I clustered the 3 cones together on a bigger wreath, right? So it's hard if you can imagine a huge wreath with one little cone here and there, it gets lost. Again, it's about depth and perception.
I had a photography teacher tell me that you need to learn the rules to then break the rules, and that's when it's art.
But that's when your curiosity gets going in your imagination, and then you're going, oh, I don't care.
There's the 3s again. And the 2 little cardinals. Love.
Yeah. And that's where you play on imagination. You can use fake snow. There's things in there. I've used fake
There's that
snow
one.
with spray glue and just fake snow.
I love.
That's about realism. That's a sled I did, another sled.
Ew.
And then there's all kinds of things. And then those pine cones are bigger than a ponderosa. It's like a sugar cone. And they're actually like this big. Literally huge. So I only used 2, I think, in that one.
All right, so there's 2 kinds of bows. So today we're gonna make a swag. You're gonna tie your own bow to put on it, and then you'll add in your accent greens, and then we have some decorations you can pick from to add a little bit more character to it if you so choose. And then feel free to take it home and add more to it if you want to. This is supposed to be more of a base so that you can take it home and personalize it as you see fit. So I'll do a little bit of a bow making tutorial with you guys. In front of you, you should have a little ribbon. You should also have some wire that's already cut. Yeah, we have all kinds. Now there's 2 kinds of bows in this world that I know how to make.
There's more.
There's more.
My favorite for split. I'm not.
But there is a nose bow, because the bow has a little nose. And then there's a circle bow, which is like the one you see on top of presents and stuff like
So
that.
try and put your hands close to the camera while you do. at least
Oh, good
one-
idea.
At least one of it.
Good idea. So if you want a nose bow, which I prefer, then follow the nose bow tutorial. And then if you want a circle bow, follow the circle bow tutorial. We're gonna start with circle bow. So for making a circle bow, you're going to take your end and you're gonna make a loop. maybe like 3 inches. And so that's how you're gonna start, with a little loop. And it's also on the pictures behind me.
You need a tail.
And you'll pinch it. No, you don't want to start with a tail because the tail comes in at the end. And then underneath that, you'll make another loop about the same size. And then we'll pinch it again. Now, if you have a directional, like if you have a ribbon where there's something on the one side and not, this is going to be very important for you to remember, is you have to twist your ribbon. The twisting it will make sure that your pretty is on the outside of the loop.
If it's on both sides, you really good.
Yeah.
So then it's just gonna be on the second one.
So then for the circle bow, you're just going to make as many loops as you can. And I think I cut the length so you can make about 5 or 6. Continuing on. So then you twist.
You make them the same size.
They're all going to be the same size, yes. And you twist. And by the end of it, your hand is going to start to cramp, which is why you want to have your wire cut before you start the bow making.
So you should do this part and not have a tail?
No, so once you get close to the end, so I have about 5 loops on mine now. You're gonna take your tail, you're gonna take what's left and do one big loop. Because what we're gonna end up doing is cut this in half here, and then that'll be our 2 tails. So we'll take our wire, thank you, and we're gonna wrap it around where our fingers are holding to pinch. So you wrap around the pinch, and then you twist it to hold.
After you do the loop.
Yes, after you do the loop. So you should have it something that looks like this, where you have all your little loops and then your one big loop.
Yes, I don't, when I'm at this point, I don't need to twist this any direction.
No, not necessarily. You can just loop it back up.
If you don't want to tie it off and you want to do a nose bow, then you can.
Yeah.
Or there's enough people to make another.
Yeah, you guys can honestly go home with 2 bows today. We have plenty of bows. Emily's like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't even hit one of my looping groups. It's just like this.
You go help
Oh,
out.
I figured it out, so. Oh, she got a loop. Okay. I feel like I'm just like, yeah.
That is a lot of it.
And then this is like, no nose though.
Yeah. Yeah, the next one will be nose.
I feel like my
All of this way.
No, so you kind of want a little bit hanging off the back. So what I would do is I'd get it halfway. Here, I'll come up to you. So,
It was a charmer.
yeah, I would go like that. And then you pull it on your end. And twist it. Because then I'll try to find the tail. So then you can fix
I
it.
like it to be.
So, yeah, that's double sided, so it's a little easier.
I'm gonna make about 4 loops on each side.
So this one I think is just a little bit shorter, so I'm gonna make those.
You always want to double check to make sure you have the same amount of loops, ladies, on each side. So I've done that where I get a huge bow and I forgot to loop.
So when you go to do your sidearm, you do it facing it the same way or opposite way?
The way you would tell is if you have, like, because with the yellow sides, it doesn't matter, but so like with this one,
Yeah, this guy.
since it has a white side, I would go like this. I would just keep it going, and now I would have to incorporate the twist, because like if I just did a regular loop, that's the loop. You see, so that's where you have to do a little twist tight
And
there.
then like, I feel like.
It's challenging when it's different on both sides.
Yeah, I have like one that's on. both sides. I'm not sure why I'm like making them smaller. Like the next one is.
And if they're not perfectly sized, it's okay, because after you get your wire, you'll have the ability to kind of pull them and to size them the same. So if they're not perfect, it's all
When
right.
I'm at this point, I feel like everyone's like ugly guy down here, so that's the bottom.
That'll be okay, that'll be okay, that'll be hidden once we fluff up the bow.
I think the hardest part is the wire for me, folks, me and it's. Hurts on the wire. Did you three on those sides?
Yeah, you want. It depends on the length of your.
So you would actually pinch this together, right?
This is gonna be high, so I make it needs to be high.
So like it all comes into the.
So I want the big easier.
The nose, we'll do the nose one next.
Yeah, see some.
I think that's what I'm
So you're gonna want your here, just make your tail and then walk. Because like if you don't, before you're alive, the fluffing is like gonna be the most sport part. Before you fluff, everything does look super ugly.
Make sure your wire is really tight, you guys, because when you go to fluff up your bow and you manipulate it, sometimes that wire will come loose. Right?
Yes. The loose wire is a big advice. With the circle bow, more loops ends up being prettier, but if you can fluff it up all right, that's it. Cause you want the pop shot, but I got you. And then you have chocolate.
So you got the kind of, so first we have this uneven, it's bigger than outside.
I don't care for circle bow, I prefer another.
I would circle with you have like 10 loops. So
Yeah,
on one side,
you need a lot of
we
loops.
need a lot of loops to pull off of the circle bow.
But then, yeah. But then you use like thousands of yards of yarn,
I used the whole thing, oh yeah.
So for me, I'm a very conservative person. I want to make my things last, like my material last as long as I can. So I like a nose bow.
She likes the nose.
Nose bow for the win. All right.
Yes.
How are circle people going? So then after you get your loops done, it's all about fluffing and making it look pretty. And just bow it up. So you'll take your loops and you just make them. That is another thing is we are using wired ribbon.
Yeah.
You have to use wired or else the fluffing is just never gonna happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't look pretty. Here, you guys want more wire?
I just read on it.
Yeah.
Because I'll need.
Yeah.
Because we're making 2 bones.
Yeah, I brought both.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thing that like the wire on the top of the present.
All right.
And take it off and use it every.
Where'd I put
This is
mine?
like a very reusable present.
So
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it back. I do that. I usually use them like just do a regular piece of twine around it and then I'll take it.
Yeah.
I have a bow maker in my family that always makes the bows for me.
Is that your mom?
Yes.
Oh, go make your goals time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MOM, Master of Mary.
Other guys call me wild rose, something wild rose, right? I got wild rose soaps.
good job.
She likes those wild roses.
Rose, good thing though.
Instead of trying it and then putting each one.
Oh, the red one? Yeah, my desk was covered in glitter when I was cutting these. Here we go. Oh my gosh. There it is.
Yeah, mine's just.
All right, so then what you do after you got it all fluffed, you have your big bow at the bottom, your big loop at the bottom. What you do? Oh my gosh. You got your big loop at the bottom, that's gonna turn into your bow tails. After you fluff her up,
Fluff it.
you got it. There you go. You're gonna take your big loop and you're gonna cut it down the middle. And then now you have two tails. I'll bring scissors around. And then you have a couple options on how to finish your tails. You could do an angled cut. And then you have that kind of finish. Or you could fold it in half and cut up to the middle of the half. And then you have that little two like dovetailed cut. All right, scissors.
Like round. The world.
Round, okay, so
This is John's really.
it is, so
Look,
it's.
so I was talking about, like, you're smart.
Because this is not the shrink is, loops are too big for just a little amount of ribbon. For this to be pulled off, you need probably at least 3 or 4 more loops on each side.
Okay.
So you gotta go smaller with the leaves.
I got
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm not sure.
It's beautiful. I don't even have glasses on to see this.
Oh, I just, well, no, because like wires with lungs. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, so. I'll explain that. So you don't want too big of a loop with a small amount of ribbon. Now, if I had a whole school of 5 fingers, and I need to make a big tree tucker, then I will have big loops, but then I'll have a ton of ribbon.
Like with this one, I feel like a big out of the years, how do you get the shape that is?
Okay, so what you do is you alternate on loops. Go this way,
Okay.
go this way.
And I say, I should even talk about it.
See how they're too big? So that's how I did this, because I,
Right.
you fan them out and you don't try. But
And then-
they're big.
Well, actually, if you roll on a loop,
Come on, but-
you'll spread another one.
Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah. I call that my.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of, sorry, once you start with such a smaller,
As you try, it's.
But it's part of the wallet.
Yeah.
It's also something else. Careful with glitter.
Yes.
Got it? Okay, now yours is the tricky, so this has to be twisted, right?
Okay, I know some people are still doing the circles. We're gonna move to nose as well. Circle people can continue circling. Put that, right? All right, so a nose bow. Fairly similar, but we're gonna start with our nose as our first loop. So we'll take our end. We have a little loop.
Thank you. And you roll that.
Yes, so we have a little loop to start. That's the nose. So then you're gonna go ahead and pinch your little loop there. And then you're gonna twist. So that for like, if you have the pretty directional, hold on. Let me do it with a directional one, just to make sure I'm knowing what I'm twisting right.
Oh, I don't think they got the same pattern of those.
Okay, so. You have your nose. We're gonna twist. So our ribbon is facing out, and we're gonna make a smaller loop.
Smaller.
Yes, well, not smaller than the nose, but you don't want to make a big one. You don't want it to be like the entire width of what the bow you want. You want it to be a little smaller than the width of the bow is gonna end up being. Because you'll make a second tier of bigger ones.
Okay.
So we're working in to out.
And you're
Mhm.
reaching in the back of the nose.
Behind the nose, yep. So then, now you have your little loop, we're gonna twist again. and make another loop on the other side of the nose that's about the same size as your first one. Oh, yes. The nose bows cramp the hands. Okay, so now we have this cute little double side. So then the next loops we're gonna make are gonna be a little bit longer than the previous.
I know, we've never like.
Uh-huh. So then you loop, you twist, you loop, you twist. So we'll do a total of 4 of the longer loops. So 2 on each side. That's fine. If you can fit 6, you can. Sometimes you can do 2 little and 3 big. Sometimes you can do 1 little, 3 big. It's really up to what you want it to look like. So then you have your 2 smalls and then your 2 big on each sides. And we'll do the same thing we did with the circle where we leave a bigger loop and that'll turn into our tails. If everyone can see. And then you get your wire.
Yeah.
Smaller, bigger. So then when you want to wire this one, you're going to go through your nose. And you poke your hand. And then you'll tie it under.
And then you push it into the halfway point and wrap it.
Mm-hmm.
So. I'm worried.
Yeah, so what I usually
Gonna be
do.
like down on both sides, because I got this like random, which is better. Like I've been pinching it like this whole time.
So
What do I do? Okay.
is that your wire? And is that much more down?
I know, it's like.
So what I do is I put my wire through. Yeah, and then I just twist it. So it doesn't wrap around a bunch. It just wraps around one side and then it'll twist spot.
Oh.
Mhm. So then you end up with your tail. To tie on. Okay?
Very cool.
Good. Your insides are gonna sparkle, Jonathan.
There you go. See, so how the
He
small.
says they don't know right.
That's all. That makes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
I got it back there. Oh, yes. Ta-da.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, you did it. Very good. Now you're gonna put your wire, and the wire goes through the nose. Okay, see like that? Oh, you have a piece. All right, you guys. Thanks. Go.
Good job, ladies.
And Jonathan. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Yeah, next up.
Yeah, actually, the top was like undone, and I was trying to go through, so.
I mean, that's around the water.
I don't know, I'm just trying to.
And then the last thing you'll want to do is you're going to want to take your 2 big ones and pull them out in different directions. This is part of the fluffing of this bow. And you just kind of make sure it spreads out and looks cute. It fans itself out.
My 2 big ones aren't the same.
So if they're not the same, you can kind of pull the short one. You can kind of like work them around.
I think my version of the lens, I chose it. But that's okay.
I'm having.
But you're still seeing the effect.
Yeah.
And,
Ta-da! All right, so then once you guys finish your bows, you are going to be able to come up and look through like the decorations and the accent greens and kind of make your own swag. So back here, I have some examples of ones, but you can really make them however you want. Then I have these little pots, because I thought if we had too many people, we could have people stuff in little pots with extra, but
That's what these are.
that's what those are. So if you want to take home a little pot of dirt and some extra greens, you are more than welcome to.